Canada, land of the maple leaf, hockey, and rising hate? A country known for its politeness, multiculturalism, and acceptance is now grappling with an unsettling reality. It's not the Canada we thought we knew. The image of a harmonious, inclusive society is being challenged by a surge of intolerance and bigotry. But lately, a dark side is emerging. This isn't just a fleeting moment. It's a growing trend that threatens the very fabric of our nation. Anti-immigrant sentiment is on the rise, and it's gotten ugly, especially for South Asians. The very people who have contributed so much to our society are now facing hostility and discrimination. We're seeing it in the streets, online, and even in our politics. Social media platforms have become breeding grounds for hate speech, and political rhetoric is increasingly divisive. This isn't about polite disagreements anymore. It's about deep-seated animosity that is tearing communities apart. This is about hate finding a home in the place we call home. The fear is palpable, and it's affecting the way people live their daily lives. We came here for a better life, for opportunity. We sought a place where we could thrive and contribute to a society that values diversity. We worked hard, contributed to society, and embraced Canadian values. We became doctors, engineers, teachers, and business owners. We participated in community events and celebrated Canadian traditions. But somewhere along the way, the narrative shifted. The media began to portray us as a threat, and public perception followed suit. Suddenly, we're stealing jobs, overpopulating the country, and not integrating. These stereotypes are not only false, but also harmful. It's a dangerous and dehumanizing narrative, and it's gaining traction. The more it spreads, the more it fuels resentment and division. This isn't just about numbers on a page. It's about the real impact on people's lives, their sense of security, and their mental well-being. This is about real people, families, and communities living in fear. The anxiety is not just about physical safety, but also about social acceptance and belonging. The fear of being targeted for the color of your skin, for the way you pray, for the language you speak. These are fundamental aspects of our identity that should be celebrated, not condemned. This is not the Canada we believe in. We must remember the values that make this country great: inclusivity, respect, and unity. It's time to face this problem head-on before it's too late. We need to come together as a nation to combat this wave of hate. Community leaders, activists, and everyday citizens must stand up and speak out against intolerance. Only by acknowledging and addressing this issue can we hope to build a more inclusive and harmonious Canada for future generations. Let's talk about the elephant in the room: politics. Politicians, especially during elections, love a good scapegoat. And guess who's become an easy target? You guessed it, immigrants. Instead of addressing real issues like economic inequality and social mobility, some politicians exploit fear and prejudice for votes. They pit us against each other. They tell working-class Canadians that immigrants are the reason they're struggling. They use dog whistle politics, coded language that sounds harmless on the surface but carries a much darker message underneath. This kind of rhetoric has real-world consequences. It normalizes hate and makes it acceptable to discriminate. This isn't just about one political party or ideology. The blame falls on all sides for not actively condemning this hate-mongering. Silence is complicity. We need our leaders to stand up, call out racism and xenophobia, and offer real solutions instead of fueling the flames of division. Ever heard of the Great Replacement theory? It's a term that might sound unfamiliar to some, but it's a concept that's been spreading like wildfire across various platforms. It's a fringe conspiracy theory, but don't let the term fringe fool you into thinking it's harmless or insignificant. This theory claims there's a deliberate plot to replace white populations with non-white immigrants. It's a narrative that's been weaponized to stoke fear and division. It's racist, it's dangerous, and it's gaining traction worldwide, including here in Canada. The spread of this theory is not just a distant problem, it's happening in our own backyards. This theory preys on existing anxieties about cultural change and economic uncertainty. It taps into the fears people have about losing their jobs, their culture, and their way of life. It paints a picture of a zero-sum game, where one group's gain is inherently another group's loss. This kind of thinking is not only flawed, but also incredibly harmful. This couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, diversity enriches our communities, bringing in new perspectives, skills, and ideas. Diversity is a strength, and immigration has always been essential to Canada's growth and prosperity. Our country is built on the contributions of people from all over the world. But facts don't seem to matter to those who cling to this hateful ideology. They are often driven by emotion rather than reason, making it difficult to counter their beliefs with logic alone. They see immigrants as a threat, an invading force, instead of fellow human beings. This dehumanization is a dangerous path that can lead to real-world consequences. This kind of thinking leads to dehumanization, which in turn can lead to violence. We've seen the tragic outcomes of such ideologies in various parts of the world. We need to call out this dangerous rhetoric wherever we see it and challenge the lies it's built on. It's not enough to simply ignore it. We must actively work to dismantle these harmful narratives. Education and awareness are key. By informing ourselves and others, we can build a more inclusive and understanding society. We must promote empathy and understanding, showing that our differences are what make us stronger. Together, we can create a future where everyone feels valued and respected, regardless of their background. It's up to each of us to stand up against hate and work towards a more united world. Section 4. Go back to India, from sidewalks to temples. This isn't just about abstract ideas or online hate. This is about real-life incidents of racism and violence targeting South Asians. We've seen it all. Verbal harassment on the streets, people being told to go back to India, discrimination in housing, employment, and even healthcare, temples vandalized with hate graffiti, women in hijabs getting attacked, families intimidated in their own neighborhoods. These aren't isolated incidents. They're part of a disturbing trend, and it's getting worse. What's even more concerning is that many of these incidents go unreported. Victims are often afraid to come forward, fearing further discrimination or retaliation. This culture of silence only emboldens the perpetrators and allows hate to fester. We need to break this cycle and create a society where victims feel safe and supported in speaking out. Section 5. Scars that run deep. The trauma of hate. You can't talk about hate crimes without talking about the trauma they inflict. These acts of violence and discrimination leave deep, often invisible scars on the victims. The emotional and psychological wounds can be just as debilitating as physical injuries, if not more so. Being targeted because of your race or religion isn't just hurtful, it's dehumanizing. It strips away your sense of security and self-worth. The feeling of being singled out and attacked for something as intrinsic as your identity can be profoundly damaging. It makes you question your place in society, your safety, your very sense of belonging. You start to wonder if you will ever be truly accepted, or if you will always be seen as an outsider. This constant state of vigilance and fear can erode your mental health over time. The trauma of these experiences can manifest in countless ways. Anxiety, depression, PTSD, insomnia, the list goes on. Victims may find it difficult to trust others, to feel safe in their own homes, or to engage in everyday activities without fear. It affects not just the individuals directly targeted, but also their families and communities. The ripple effects of hate crimes can spread far and wide, impacting everyone who cares about the victim. Families may live in constant fear for their loved ones, and communities may feel a collective sense of vulnerability. Imagine living with the constant fear of being attacked or harassed simply for who you are. This fear can be paralyzing, making it difficult to go about your daily life. It can lead to social isolation, as victims may withdraw from public spaces to avoid potential threats. Imagine having to explain to your children why they're being treated differently because of the color of their skin. These conversations are heartbreaking and can leave lasting impressions on young minds. Children may grow up feeling ashamed of their heritage or fearful of others. This is the reality for many South Asians in Canada today. Despite the country's reputation for diversity and inclusion, hate crimes against South Asians and other minority groups are still a significant issue. These incidents remind us that there is still much work to be done to achieve true equality. We need to acknowledge this trauma, provide support for victims, and work towards creating a society where such hate has no place. This means not only addressing the immediate needs of those affected, but also tackling the root causes of hate and discrimination. Education, community engagement, and policy changes are all essential components of this effort. By working together, we can create a safer, more inclusive world for everyone.